Hello everyone and welcome to Meet the Professionals graduate scheme. Thank you so much to everyone who has joined us today. You should all be able to hear me. If you can't, just use the chat box to let me know, but hopefully everything's okay. So my name is Jenny Sloan and I'm a careers consultant here at the University of Manchester. I'm excuse me, I'm joined today by an excellent panel of employers who all have vacancies on their graduate schemes. So they've kindly come along today to tell you more about their graduate scheme opportunities and will offer you invaluable insights and advice into the recruitment and selection processes. You'll also have the opportunity to ask them any questions about their graduate schemes, and you'll be able to get insights on what it's like to work at their organisations and maybe even gain tips for the application and selection processes. So before I hand over to the panel to introduce themselves and to give us an overview of their graduate schemes and organisations, I'll just start with a brief summary of how the event will run, and I'll cover some housekeeping. So, the session will run until 2 o'clock, but we might finish a little earlier depending on the number of questions that you guys submit. We'll start with each employer panelist introducing themselves, their organisation and their graduate schemes, and then it's over to you. You can ask questions using the question and answer function in the GoToWebinar toolbar. You should be able to find that in the right-hand corner of your screen at the moment. I will monitor the questions and I'll direct them towards the panel. So just bear in mind that when you're asking the questions to the whole panel, you can just say it's for the whole panel, or if you'd like to direct them towards one specific employer, that's absolutely fine. Just remember to clarify who you're submitting to when you're writing the question, so I know who to direct it to. I really do encourage you to take this opportunity to ask the panel questions about their companies and get insights into their recruitment and the nature of their graduate opportunities. The employer event is part of Future Fortnight, which probably a lot of you know. It runs until Friday the 30th of October, next Friday, and it's a 2-week programme of online career support and events for University of Manchester students and recent graduates. But it's particularly useful for those of you who are thinking about applying for graduate schemes or have already even begun the process. So I'm now going to hand over to each of the employers in turn to introduce themselves and give a brief overview of their scheme. So you'll see from the screen that we've got Joe from Amazon, Lauren from the Civil Service, John from the NHS, Louis from Teach First, and Mary from Unlocked Graduates. So we will start with Joe from Amazon to give us an overview of Amazon and the graduate opportunities. So it's over to you, Joe.
Thanks, Jenny. Hi, my name is Joe. I am a recruiter at Amazon. So I currently recruit for our student programs team, which is where we cover off recruitment for all of our interns and graduate roles. So I won't spend too long on introduction to Amazon, but we have various different opportunities available in different organizations. The main roles that we have from a kind of business perspective are in our consumer business. So the consumer business basically looks after the buying and selling of products on our website. So this is an overview of some of the graduate roles that we have within that part of the business. So the first being our business development graduates, and in that you would be in one of the 3 roles that are listed here, so a brand specialist, associate partner manager, or vendor manager. They vary slightly on exactly what you would be doing day to day, but the overview of the roles is that they would be kind of sales or account management based roles. So you'd be working with a lot of our external parties, and that would mostly be either sellers or vendors, so suppliers. And it's a lot of relationship building, but Amazon are also a very data-driven company, so a lot of our roles involve a lot of kind of analytical skills as well. The business development graduate role is a 2-year program. It's a permanent position, but the support from the graduate program lasts for 2 years. Within that time, you would receive different training, different networking opportunities, and you would also complete a project which would be submitted in your 2nd year. We also have a finance graduate role. So finance at Amazon is slightly different because we have so many different finance teams. So you would do 3 12-month rotations. And that would be in various different parts of the business. So there's some examples here, but we also have finance teams who support each one of our businesses. So Amazon Video have their own finance team, Amazon Music. So you would do rotations between those ones. You would also complete throughout the program a qualification, so either CIMA, ACCA, and we also now offer ACA. Then we also have our AWS sales graduate, which is slightly different as this is in Amazon Web Services. So if you haven't heard of Amazon Web Services, they are kind of cloud computing side of our business. So provide a platform for companies to run their software basically. The role itself is similar to the business development graduate in that it's working with external parties, but it's more working with our AWS partners. So for this role, you don't need to have technical skills, but any kind of technical interest that you have would really help, because you need to understand the AWS platform and the products that we offer to help sell that to our customers basically. So this is a 15-month graduate program. You would spend time in that learning different AWS portfolios. You would find out a lot about the Amazon culture. Again, you would have different training and networking opportunities within that. So the next slide, I think, talks about internship opportunities, which is less relevant because obviously we're talking about grad roles here, but very high level. Each of those graduate roles have an internship that feeds into the grad role. The differences are minimal. Within the finance one, you would do 2 6-month rotations instead of the 3 12 months. And with business development, there are a few different opportunities outside of just the core retail business. So things like Amazon Pay, Amazon Music, there's a few different opportunities there. So on the next slide, we've just got some information about our recruitment process. So you would need to complete an online application. There are some basic questions that you would need to fill in with that, and then you would do an online assessment before being invited to a virtual assessment centre. The assessment centre is a combination of interviews and case studies, and all of our assessments, so the online assessment and the assessments of the case studies, have been built to reflect the work that you would be doing as a graduate with Amazon. So the idea is that you can come away from this also having an idea of what you might be doing day to day in the role. That being said, I think one of the really interesting things about our graduate opportunities is that the work that you're doing would be so varied. There's so many different internal teams and different stakeholders that you'd work with on a day-to-day basis. So as much as I'm saying it gives you an insight into the day-to-day, no 2 days are the same. So that's actually really hard to provide an insight into. But yeah, the roles are really varied. You get quite a lot of different experience, and we also make sure that our graduates really have good exposure to all the different parts of Amazon. There's so many different businesses. There are businesses that I probably don't even know about yet, and I've worked here for 5 years. So we really try and make sure that the graduates have a rounded knowledge. Because coming into these first roles, what we want to do is give you an overview of everything that you could do, and then you can make that decision on how you want to grow your career and what you want to move into next.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jo. That sounds great. That's a great summary. So I'm sure there'll be lots of questions for Jo. So remember to use the chat box, the question answer box if you have any questions, and I'll build them through. So next on to Lauren at the Civil Service. I think, Lauren, am I wrong, but has the Civil Service applications closed yesterday? Is that right?
Yesterday for the Faststream and for our SDIP, which is our Summer Diversity Internship Programme, but our EDIP, Early Diversity Internship Programme, is open until the 12th of November.
Fantastic. And I'm sure a lot of people on the line have already applied for the Civil Service, started that application process. So it'll be invaluable to listen to what Lauren says to help you through the next stages of the selection process. So I'll pass over to Lauren now.
Thanks. So hi everyone, I'm Lauren. I'm a second year generalist fast streamer, currently on secondment to the Metropolitan Police. My previous postings have been in the Ministry of Justice in the Prison Estates team, and I was seconded onto the COVID-19 response and strategy team for the Courts and Tribunals Service. The Faststream is the Civil Service's flagship leadership development programme. It develops people from a wide variety of backgrounds who have the potential to become the future leaders of the civil service. Postings, as you can see on the map of the UK on the screen, they vary in location. They're spread all across the UK. So wherever you're interested in being based, there is a role for you. The Faststream offers a competitive minimum starting salary of £27,000 to £28,000, and on completion of which scheme you're on, it normally varies from about £45,000 to £55,000. We value who you are when you join us. We offer such flexible working arrangements, so you have the space to achieve a work-life balance. If you're a final year undergraduate, an existing graduate, or maybe a degree apprentice, you'll find you qualify for loads of our schemes. Most are open to graduates with 2-2s, as well as 2-1s and firsts. We offer a choice of 15 schemes, and I'll quickly go through them, but there are so many more details on the Faststream website. So on the next slide, thank you. So commercial Faststream. On the commercial Faststream, you'll be negotiating contracts worth billions of pounds, ensuring that the government is in tune with markets and managing our relationships with some of the biggest companies in the world. Digital data and technology, you'll design, build, run and assure government digital services and manage and reduce security risks. You'll transform the lives of millions of people. I know people who've done it this year through revolutionising the DWP service online and divorce online in the Ministry of Justice. The diplomatic Faststream offers an opportunity to maximise the UK's influence around the world, as well as safeguard UK interests and values overseas. In the diplomatic economics service, you'll be at the heart of global macroeconomic policy and international relations. Your work will allow you to focus on both country-specific and also thematic projects, and so you can look across international borders. The finance Faststream, you'll make your mark on some of the most important economic and financial issues facing the country, and there's a finance community of 10,000 people that you could be a part of. The generalist scheme, which I'm on, works on issues of national importance, driving forward policy, delivering operations, and you'll undertake placements in a variety of different departments all across the country. The government economics scheme, Faststreamers work in a broad range of areas such as macroeconomic modelling, competition policy, international finance issues, just to name a few. Government operational research, here you'll use scientific and mathematical techniques to find better solutions to government policy making and resolve really complex management problems. Government social research, you can identify, analyse, interpret all social trends that are influencing policy at the time and allow us to evaluate policy outcomes, whether it's been a success or not. The government stats service, Faststreamers provide the production of official statistics alongside analysis and advice. They provide a firm evidence base for decision making, both inside and outside of government. So that's a nice way to get public and private sector there. Our Houses of Parliament scheme is quite popular. Here you'll work at the heart of democracy. You're working with politicians from all parties to scrutinise government policy and support the UK's democratic process. HR, due to the size and complexity of the civil service, HR is a huge challenge. This area is so fast-paced and it's so high-profile, it's often influenced by national and world events. I know the COVID-19 issues, HR have been working round the clock to ensure that people have everything they need, people in the right place at the right time. The project delivery Faststream, you can develop skills here to develop the most exciting projects happening in Britain today, building hospitals, railways, providing cutting-edge digital services. As a property Faststreamer, this is a new scheme this year. You'll be at the heart of making sure our properties are more sustainable, they're better located for people across the UK, and adaptable to reflect the way people want to work in the future, because there will be a push for working from home. As a science and engineering Faststreamer, you could be working on issues as diverse as climate change, health science, defence and security, energy, transport, it goes on and on. So those are the different schemes you can go on the Faststream. We also offer what we call the EDIP and SDIP, which are our diversity internship programmes. The civil service is committed to creating a diverse and inclusive workforce, and our internships are award-winning, and they play a vital role in helping us to achieve a more rounded view of the UK. These programmes provide undergraduates with disabilities and those from BAME and low socioeconomic backgrounds a paid opportunity to gain experience working for the civil service, and you also get a flavour of life on the Faststream. On the next slide, there is a graphic of the applications process. Thank you. it's not as bad as it looks. They want to get the best out of you. So don't be afraid to be completely yourself. The civil service is very much in favour of bringing your whole self to work, whoever that may be. The Faststream and SDIP, the Summer Diversity Internship Programmes, closed yesterday, but they will open again next year. That is one thing. The civil service will always continue to recruit, no matter what is going on in the world. You still have the chance to apply for the Early Diversity Internship Programme until the 12th of November, and I'd really recommend that you do that. It's a great way to get a flavour of the Faststream before committing to it. Thanks.
Fantastic, thanks Lauren. There's loads there, so I'm sure there'll be absolutely loads of questions. Thank you. So next on to John from the NHS Leadership Academy.
Thank you. So good afternoon everybody. My name's John Finnegan. I'm the Senior Manager for Attraction and Recruitment for the NHS Graduate Management Training Scheme. So we're going to talk to you a bit today about the NHS, obviously the scheme itself, and how you can possibly get involved and how you can apply for the scheme as well. So before we move on to the actual the scheme itself, just want to give you a bit of information about the NHS, as not everybody knows about the NHS, about how big we are and how varied we are. So the NHS is truly remarkable. As you can see here, we've been going since 1948, so 72 years. Out of those 72 years, the graduate management training scheme has run for 62 of those years. So we're very, very experienced in what we do, and we've got great success stories throughout the history of the NHS. Every 1 million patients are actually looked after every 36 hours. So it gives you an idea about how big the NHS is and what we actually do on a day-to-day basis. You can also see here that the NHS has 1.6 million staff. So I think it's in the top 5 employee workforces in the world, only beaten by various bits in Chinese Army and Department of Health, and I think it's America. But probably the most interesting thing about the NHS is the next sort of two sort of pictures there. First of all, we are 8,300 separate organisations. So even though probably a lot of you think the NHS is a big picture and it's actually a big organisation, we're actually split up into almost 8,000 different divisions, organisations, and they can be acute trusts, so your sort of A&E departments or hospitals, to your CCGs, so they're clinical commissioning groups. It can even vary into primary care networks or arm's length bodies such as NHS England, who look after and govern the NHS. And the next sort of picture brings more to light about what you're here today for. So there are over 350 different occupations in the NHS. So yes, we have 6 specialisms that you join and you can apply for the September 2021 start, but actually that can be a very, very varied career, and you can take a different occupation and a different career path to somebody else who's on the scheme in those 8,300 organisations. So that's a bit about the NHS. So next slide, please. So this is actually quite an important slide, and one that we try and bring to everybody who's actually going to apply to the scheme. So myself been in the NHS for a couple of years, and people have been here for 10 years, 20 years. People stay here for a long time. We differ, we challenge each other. We actually don't agree with each other quite a bit, but actually one thing that brings us all together is the reason why we're part of the NHS, and that's our values. And what we all want to do is improve patient care. So when you're thinking about applying for the scheme, think about your motivations and your drivers. Why are you applying to the scheme? Are you doing it to make a difference? Do you align yourself with the values of the NHS? Then yes, we want you to come and apply to the scheme. You'll make a real difference to patient care. And I won't go through all the values there as you can see them on the slide. But there's 2 I want to bring out which probably think about when you're joining the scheme or applying, is working together for the patients and also improving lives. You might have a degree of separation from actually frontline care. I myself are involved in frontline care, but I also support frontline care in the job I do to bring through the future leaders of the NHS. And the specialism you're going to join, whether it be finance, HR, general management, you are there to improve the NHS, whether it be clinical pathways or whether it be actually working in finance, actually getting our most for our money. So think about your values and think about the challenges we're experiencing at the moment. And I'm not going to go into too much. We only need to look outside the window and turn on the television to see what challenges the NHS are facing at the moment with COVID-19, and how you'll be able to maybe support that moving forward. So next slide, please. So just a bit about the actual scheme itself, just give you an insight into why it's unique. So you have 6 specialisms, so finance, general management, so on and so forth. When you're going to apply to these specialisms, I would just make sure, again, what your drivers are, what your motivations are. But actually, as you can imagine, finance is very different from HR. So make sure when you're applying for a specialism, you're aligned, and that is the career path you want to take, whether it's your passion or it's your motivation as well. And I'll just pick out a couple of things from this slide to actually bring it to light. So everybody joins the scheme, gets a fully funded postgrad qualification in the area of specialism that you're going to be successful on. Everybody gets a chance to have a flexi placement. So everybody has a flexi placement around 2-3 months where they can actually go outside the NHS. They can go and work for a big accountancy firm. They can go and work for the civil service. They can go and work for the charity sector to actually understand those skills, actually develop some project improvement there, and then bring back to the NHS and actually try and embed that in the NHS as well. And right at the bottom of the slide here, you can see 4 of the last 5 NHS chief executives are alumni. So Simon Stevens, you've probably seen on the daily briefings we used to have back early in the year. He was part of the alumni who've been through the scheme. So it can shows you if you want the career progression, the NHS grad scheme can give you that. But you know, every career path is different, and you can end up anywhere in the NHS. And next slide, please. And just to summarise for you, so it's quite unique. We've got a number of different specialisms in 2021. That gives you an idea of the placements you've got in the yellow box there, about orientation, the work-based placements, and the flexi placement I've mentioned. Also talks about the learning I've already covered. Support. So NHS is split into 7 regions. Every region has its team and has a support structure there for you, and you'll get exposure to senior leadership. And just to bring it to light as well, all information about the application process is on our website. All information about how to apply in the various stages, again, is on our website. You are able to actually speak with trainees on our website through our Connect page, and you can apply to the scheme at the moment. So the scheme is opened a couple of weeks ago. We've had high volumes of applications. So if you want to start in the NHS and you want to apply to the NHS, please start your application process sooner rather than later. This is a great chance to join the NHS. And finally, we do have other live events that we run ourselves. To give you a bit more insight into the NHS, we do have alumni that join those live events as well. I think that's me, so thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Gosh, the NHS is so much bigger than even I initially understood. It's massive. That's fantastic, thank you. Okay, so next we're on to Louis from Teach First.
Hi, thanks, Jenny. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name's Louis. I am a university recruiter at Teach First. I'm a University of Manchester alum myself from 2013, which seems like a lifetime ago now. But yeah, I work at Teach First at the moment. Anyone that's not familiar with Teach First, we're essentially an educational charity. And we exist simply because education in the UK isn't fair. A child's background shouldn't affect their future, but unfortunately the harsh reality is that a child from a disadvantaged background is less likely to get good GCSE results, good SATs, go on to higher education, or get a job or opportunities that will afford them what would be considered a good quality of life. So for example, only 4% of doctors and just 6% of barristers come from working class backgrounds, and that has kind of become really normalized now, that those from more affluent backgrounds will end up in the better paid, more prestigious roles, while those from poorer backgrounds simply don't. And this slow start in life really does last a lifetime, widening social inequalities, and it's a vicious cycle that we're determined to try and help schools break. It's not a small problem either. I'm sure you've heard recently about Marcus Rashford's campaign to end child food poverty, which is affecting around 2.3 million children. And these are the exact children that we're trying to support through Teach First. We need to unlock the potential in all children, not just some. If we don't, we're failing the next generation. And schools are at the very forefront of this alongside Marcus Rashford. And we want to support them in trying to build a fair education for everyone. Our teachers are doing this every day. Their commitment and positivity helps young people from disadvantaged backgrounds to develop the confidence to enjoy the future that they deserve. But this positive change doesn't just happen, and it's not something that any one individual or one organisation can take on alone. And to make a real impact on the educational system, we need great teachers and great leaders, people that point blank refuse to ignore the potential in these young people, but will actively ignite it. We've been ranked in the top 10 of the Times Top 100 Graduate Employers list for the past 13 years. This year we came in at number 8. One of the reasons for this is that our program is an opportunity to develop not only great teaching skills, but also the transferable leadership skills like communication, resilience, confidence, traits that are all really highly prized by all employers. And that means that our alumni, or ambassadors as we call them, have a real head start in their careers, whatever they decide to do next. So like 63% of people who have finished our training program still continue to teach to this day in schools serving low-income communities, but others will continue to help build a fair education from all different angles, whether that be as civil servants, social entrepreneurs, journalists, and so many more. Can we move on to the next slide? Amazing, thank you. The branding's gone red. Don't tell my marketing team about that, it should not be. But over the 2 years on our training program, you essentially work, train and qualify as a full-time salary teacher in one of our partner schools. So these are schools in communities that face the biggest challenges, as I've mentioned, which means that you can make a huge impact where it's needed most immediately, essentially from day one. You develop really quickly on the program with the help of coaching, world-class training, mentoring and access to an extensive professional network. At the end of your first year, you gain qualified teacher status, which essentially means you're a teacher, and that comes with a salary increase. And then at the end of the second year, you gain your postgraduate diploma in education, which means you're qualified to teach for life, giving you plenty of options for the future. One of the key benefits of joining the program is that it provides a real professional challenge from day one. It's not just a graduate opportunity that will see you sort of repeating the same tasks day in, day out. You'll be leading your own classes from the beginning with real accountability and real decision-making power, which is an opportunity that will really challenge you. And that's something that people who have completed our program consistently tell us is one of the most exciting parts that enables them to stand out from their peers. Additionally, you're helping schools in the most disadvantaged areas, which is true, but you're also helping in shortage subject areas. There's a huge focus at the moment on STEM and foreign languages and trying to improve the levels of these subjects in areas where it's really needed. Like, did you know, for example, 21% of young people don't pass GCSE maths at grade 4 or above, which can have a huge impact on their opportunities in later life. And being part of the scheme is something that you can really help to change that. Can we move on to the third slide, please? Amazing, thank you. So yeah, on our program, as mentioned, you get a fully funded postgraduate diploma in education and leadership, a PGDE. This is worth double the academic credits of a PGC, if anyone's familiar with those. It's internationally recognised, and you also have the opportunity to top it up to a master's in your third year if you wanted to, at a reduced cost as well. You gain a salary from day one in the classroom rather than after potentially studying a little further like you do with some other routes into teaching. And as mentioned, that salary will also increase after the first year. After the 2 years on the program, whether you want to stay in teaching, change education at a systemic level, or do something completely different, this experience will provide you with some amazing transferable skills for your future career. And through our partnerships with various organisations from different sectors, you'll have the opportunity to take part in some amazing summer projects and internships that are exclusive to participants at Teach First. These include 1 to 3 week paid placements with our supporter organisations, including people, in fact, like Amazon, Google, Rolls-Royce, PwC, who can all offer you these bespoke internships, which will help you develop as a leader. In addition, the overall support that you get on the program is incomparable. You'll be part of a 12,000 strong active network of people who have all been through the program. You'll have mentors in your school, a tutor through your university partner, your fellow trainees, both in the school and in the local area, as well as us at Teach First, who are there to help you every step of the way. And that's pretty much it from me. There's a QR code here. If anyone would like to find out more, you're more than welcome to either go to our website, which is just teachfirst.org.uk, or by scanning that QR code. I'm hosting some one-to-one drop-in sessions over Zoom over the next week or so, if anyone would like to book in and have a quick chat. But yeah, otherwise that's it from me. Thanks so much.
Fantastic, thank you. Yes, everyone, definitely make use of the QR code. Just open up your camera and scan it with your phone and go through to the website and do book onto those Zoom sessions, anyone that's interested in applying for Teach First. So last but not least, Mary from Unlocked Graduates.
Hi guys, can you all hear me? All right, yeah? Okay, cool. So yeah, I'm Mari, one of the recruitment officers working for Unlocked Graduates. I'm just going to talk you through our programme and our recruitment process. So Unlocked Graduates' mission is to reduce reoffending in the UK. So almost half of adults reoffend within a year of release. And we believe that prison officers play a fundamental role in bringing this number down. So our 2-year leadership development programme trains graduates to work as frontline prison officers who can lead change within the UK prison service, focusing on rehabilitation and policy changes. Fixing prisons is one of the biggest challenges facing society today. Around half of prisoners are reconvicted within a year of release. Reoffending costs the taxpayer £18.1 billion a year, and this is the cost of detecting, sentencing and imprisoning people who have already been through the system. But the price to be paid goes far beyond the financial cost. The crimes committed by people who are reoffending profoundly impact the lives of their victims. So the families of prisoners also suffer. The children of prisoners are more likely to be sucked into a life of crime themselves, and prisoners and ex-prisoners alike have a disproportionately high risk of drug addiction, self-harm, homelessness and suicide. So this prison population includes some of the most vulnerable and challenging members of society. They are more likely to have spent time in care as a child, as well as having witnessed and experienced physical abuse, substance misuse and mental health problems. They are less likely to have attained minimum standards in education or to have held down a job. So Unlock graduates are working to change this. Prison officers have contact with prisoners more than any other professionals, and so have the power to change and to make a real difference. Prisoners tell us that prison officers' interventions and support, if properly targeted, can help turn their lives around. Unlocked wants innovative leaders to join the prison service to bring fresh thinking and new ideas to reform prisons and help prisoners make better, more positive choices and prepare for life outside prison. Can I go to the next slide, please? I feel like Boris when I say that. So here you can see the outline of the 2-year programme. So it starts off with 6 weeks intensive training. You will join a close-knit team of almost 200 driven graduates and develop invaluable skills as a prison officer. On the programme, you will even benefit from a fully funded master's degree. So this is an MSc in Applied Custodial Leadership and work placement opportunities that could be with one of the top corporate employers we partner with. So from top law firms like Clifford Chance to KPMG and the Ministry of Justice. The skills that you will build are highly transferable to a wide variety of sectors. It's also imperative that the work that prison officers do and the challenges that are faced by prisoners when released are not only discussed within the criminal justice system. Prisoners are relatively hidden from society, and for change to happen, this needs to be brought to the forefront across all sectors. So you'll be placed with a minimum of 4 other Unlock participants, and we work in prisons in London, the South East, North West and the West Midlands in a range of institutions, so working with males, females, young offenders and in the youth estate. So as a Times Top 100 employer, we offer starting salary of up to 30k and a fully funded master's and all the training you'll need to make a difference from day one. You will have the freedom to run with your own ideas on how to improve things and the responsibility of leading large groups of prisoners. The skills developed on the programme allow you to develop your career in the justice system and in other top companies. I go to the next slide, please. So the recruitment team are here to help you succeed. So to be eligible to apply, you must have at least a grade C in Maths and English GCSE, and to have or to be expecting a 2-1 in any degree. You need to have the right to work in the UK for the duration of the programme. It doesn't matter what degree you have, it's just important that you bring your own personal skills, and these can include things from your degree. So maybe you've studied psychology and have an understanding of mental health problems, or if you studied maths and you are really good at problem solving. If you're considering an application, we highly recommend arranging a time to speak with a recruiter, as your application is more likely to be successful. So check out our Meet Us page on our website just to see when our next application workshop is. So the first step of the application is a test your judgment activity. So this is just about 15 minutes looking at scenarios you might be faced with in the role and saying what you might be most expected to do or least expected to do in that situation. You'll then move forward to the video interview. So this is a range of competency-based questions and situational-based questions. And then if you're successful at that, it's then the assessment centre, which is being held virtually this year. And then if you are successful and made an offer, this is on the basis that you pass a fitness test, go through vetting, and that we find a suitable prison placement for you. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. That's fantastic. We have absolutely loads of questions. So I don't even know where to start really. Let's try by grouping them together. So a lot of them are actually directed to specific panelists about their schemes. Some of them are very specific. I will do my best to get through all the questions. If I can't don't worry, contact, you know, have a look on the employer websites, contact the graduate recruitment email addresses, or I'm sure the panelists here won't mind you getting in touch with them as well. But I'll do my best to get through them all. The first question we have here is for Joe at Amazon. And it's a question about the CIMA and ACCA qualifications with the finance strand at Amazon. This student wants to know, do you get time inside of your work to complete these qualifications, or are you expected to work on them outside of work?
Yep, so you do get study days. You have a certain number of study days per year, and then you'll also have time off for sitting the exams as well.
Fantastic, thank you. And another question for Joe. What does the online assessment centres look like, the virtual assessment centres? Are these different? In what way do they differ from the physical assessment centres of previous years?
Yeah, of course. So I guess the biggest difference is there is no group aspect to them. So it's all individual interviews. You would have 2 interviews, which are a combination of competency questions and case interview questions, which are kind of situational questions. And then you would also complete 2 case studies. With the case studies, the virtual aspect makes it quite challenging, but you would be sent an exercise to complete. You would work through that, and then you'll present it back to your interviewer afterwards.
Fantastic. And do you have any sort of tips on how to best prepare for these virtual assessment centres?
Yeah, definitely. So with Amazon, the biggest thing I can recommend is looking at our leadership principles. We have 14 leadership principles. You can find them on our jobs website, and they really underpin everything that we do. And those are the skills that we're looking for in future employees. So I'd recommend having a look through those, thinking about your experience, and we're really open in terms of what your experience is in. It doesn't need to be in a related field, but thinking about how you've been able to demonstrate those skills in your experience. And then with the case studies, because they are related to the job, I would just say do as much research as you can about the company and about the roles that you're applying to, just to get a sense of the kind of culture that we have, so that you're, I guess, set up to be able to respond to those questions. But your recruiter and the interviewers will give you all the information that you need on the day. There's no pre-work that you need to do for those. Just research into the roles is going to help.
Fantastic, thank you. And our next question is for John at the NHS. How are the NHS values, like compassion and improving lives, assessed through the selection process? Is it, are all of them assessed through applications, interviews, assessment centres, or are some of these stages more heavily weighted to different values?
Yeah, so it's a really good question, actually. So first of all, I'd probably tell you to go and have a look at the healthcare leadership model, which you can type into Google, and it'll give you an idea of what leaders of today and the future will look like in the NHS. I'd also probably tell you to have a quick look at the NHS Constitution, as they're the values within the NHS that everybody should have, and that was on the screen that I showed you before. In terms of the actual application process, you will go through an application form, which is probably quite similar to the number of panels here that they probably have. But then you'll do online tests, which are quite generic, so the numerical reasoning tests, and etc., etc. Then we move to a video interview and the virtual assessment centre. So it's those 2 areas there that we're really looking for. What are your motivations? So why are you applying for the NHS? We're also looking at how you evaluate information very quickly, how you work together, collaboration, how you engage. So those values are assessed throughout the assessment centre process and also the video interview process. But the 2 things I'll probably point you out are the healthcare leadership model in the NHS and also the NHS Constitution. Really look at those two sort of documents before applying to the scheme, and you should be okay. Put it that way.
Fantastic, thank you. And we have another question here actually for yourself, John, about the flexi placements. Are these competitive? Does everyone have the opportunity to apply for a flexi placement, or only sort of a small select percentage of the graduate scheme cohort get to go on these flexi placements?
No, everybody gets to have a chance to do a flexi placement. It's a real opportunity for us to learn just as much as you, for you to actually go out into wherever you want to be, and we can support you with finding those. You can find your own for a number of months, learn, understand, try and help something in a different sector, and bring that skill set back to the NHS. So everybody starts on the scheme in March 2021, that they've already been through the assessment centre process, but people who apply now will start September 2021. You'll have the opportunity to go on to a flexi placement.
Fantastic, thank you. And we've got a question here for Lauren at the Civil Service. I guess this question is more about your personal experience, really. Your secondment to the Met Police, what is it like? And can you do secondments as part of the graduate scheme, or is it quite rare to get a secondment as part of the graduate scheme?
Each scheme is different. Some schemes it's compulsory to do a secondment, and that can either be to a private business, such as say KPMG, EY. Some you can go to the public sector, you can go into the NHS. And for me, I chose to go to what's called the wider public sector. So the Met is kind of public sector, but not really. At the Met, I'm actually a strategy advisor on their inclusion and diversity strategy that they're refreshing for the next, I think it'd be 3 years now. So working on things like increasing recruitment of diverse people, making sure that the retention is high, and also finding out about how to improve relations with communities across London, which, as everyone's seen in the news, probably hasn't been going as well as possible. But it's something that the Met is really, really positive about. There is such a motivation for change at the moment, and I'm absolutely loving the secondment. I'm here for 6 months. I think some schemes have a year secondment, but others, for the majority, it's 6 months. But whatever scheme you're on, you should be able to apply for one if it's not compulsory. We also offer secondments such as the national security secondment. So you'll, from your first year, you will only go into national security type roles. So GCHQ, MI5, MI6, serious organised crime agency. So those are the other paths you could take. We also offer a number 10 route, as it's called, where you will go in and specialise in working in number 10, working in close proximity to the Prime Minister and his advisors. So it's not just secondments, there are multiple routes throughout your Faststream journey.
Fantastic, thank you. Our next question is to Lou at Teach First. This participant has asked if you could tell them a bit more about the mentoring and coaching opportunities through Teach First as part of the graduate scheme.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, as I mentioned, we've got a network of 12,000 ambassadors who are people that have completed our training program, and as a participant on the program, you would have access to this network, and the vast majority of those ambassadors will volunteer themselves to be mentors or coaches for any new trainees. So let's say, for example, you were interested in long-term pursuing a career in consultancy, or if you were interested in setting up your own social enterprise, then we can connect you with a mentor through the ambassador network who will kind of guide you through that process and work with you alongside your time on the training program to help you reach that goal. Does that make sense?
That's perfect, thank you. And we've actually got another question as well. Can you give, I know sort of you did touch on this, but can you tell us a bit more, give a couple of examples of the summer placement internships? What sort of things have people gone on to do during the summer in the past? I know you said they worked with Amazon and things, but...
Yeah, so with Amazon, there's a particular focus on getting computer scientists into the classroom. So our partnership with them focuses on that. But we work with about 70 organizations from all different sectors. So people like PwC, Rolls-Royce is quite a popular one, and the internships, they tend to be quite bespoke, so it's hard to talk about them all. But essentially, you will during your time with Teach First, you can apply for a summer project through an organization that's offering them on that given year, and it's a 1 to 3 week placement with various departments. With each it varies from company to company with what their kind of the placements look like, but they on average, about 2/3 of the people that apply for these summer projects with our partner organisations tend to be offered jobs with those organisations once they've completed the training programme. So it's quite a good way for people to experience another sector and get their foot in the door with an organisation if they feel that a lifetime, if they're not planning to teach, throughout their careers, and they do want to explore other options. Additionally, those summer projects are available not just while you're on the training program, but they're available to you for life. So if in 5 years' time, once you've completed the training program, you decide, oh, I'd like to see what PwC has to offer, or what Rolls-Royce has to offer, or what Citibank have to offer, you can still apply for summer projects then and spend some time getting to know those organisations during the summer as well.
Fantastic, great, thank you. And there's 2 questions here from Mary at Unlock Graduates. The first question is another sort of workplace and opportunities related question. How long are they, and what sort of examples are there of what sort of Unlock Graduates have gone on to do as part of the workplace and opportunities? And do you get a say in the location of where the opportunity is, where you have to work?
Was that with the placement or like with the prison placement? So
that's the individual work placement opportunities, I think. Well, that's what the question said, so I think, yeah.
Yeah, so it's quite similar to Teach First, really. We're partnered with very similar organisations. It just works that you do it in between your 2 years. So they're 2-week work placements. So with a variety of organisations, so they could be with civil service departments, they could be with sort of PwC, KPMG, Clifford Chance. It really depends on sort of what your interests are and where you want to take your career. So if you have a particular interest, perhaps in like criminal psychology, then we can try and find a placement that's suitable for that. So they change every year. We're getting new interests from different companies. So you just have to sort of really voice what your interests are. But yeah, people have gone on to do quite exciting things, and similarly, people have sort of also then gone on to get roles with PwC, for example. So yeah, they're 2 weeks in the middle of those 2 years, and the number of organisations that are offering them to us are growing, so everybody does get an opportunity to do them. And then in terms of placement, I'll go through choice of prison placement. So you complete a placement survey when you get offered a place, and that you just sort of tick which region you want to work in, and if you have reasons for why you might not be able to relocate. So for example, caring responsibilities or having a mortgage or something like that. And then you also express an interest with working with male, female, youth estate or young offenders, and then we just sort of try and match that up to make sure everybody is happy with their placement. Obviously being more flexible with location is better, but yeah, if you've got reasons for why you can't relocate, just make sure you're putting those on your placement survey.
Fantastic, thank you. We've actually got another question, another sort of more practical question for yourself about the fitness test. What does that involve?
So there's a couple of things. It's just it's a bleep test where you have to get to level 5.4. And then there's like a little agility test where you're just running through some cones. You have to be able to hold up a shield in front of you for a certain amount of time, and then also a grip test with your hand. And then they test your eyesight and blood pressure as well.
Great. And does that all, I guess it all takes place in one day or a couple of hours?
Yes, that'll be one day, and they're with sort of prisons dotted around the country, but usually Manchester actually, so quite handy.
Oh. Yeah, that's definitely handy for our students and graduates. That's great, thank you. And then back to Lauren for a question. There's so many different schemes, strands as part of the Faststream. How did you decide to apply for the generalist scheme? And what advice would you give to anyone struggling to decide which scheme to apply for?
I went for the generalist for that reason. I didn't know which scheme to apply for. It kind of lets you have almost a taster of all the different schemes. So far I've had almost a finance role, an operations role, policy. So if you are unsure about which role to go for, I would recommend generalist, because you can get the opportunities from all the different sectors. If you want one that's specifically such as the diplomatic scheme, you should go for that, because there's not really a way to get from the generalist scheme onto the diplomatic scheme because of changes in their policy and changes in the actual Foreign Office now. So if there is a specific scheme you want, definitely go for it, but otherwise generalist lets you pick and choose which scheme you go on to for each of your placements.
Fantastic, thank you. And another question for Joe. The question is, do Amazon graduate schemes accept applicants from STEM studies? I'm sure the answer is yes, but
Yeah, short answer is yes. Yeah, so we're definitely very open to the background. As I mentioned before, the leadership principles are really what we're looking for. But even more than that, with STEM backgrounds is something that we're really looking to drive in the kind of more business side of our company, because I think you can kind of bring a new, unique approach to things. As I mentioned before, we're a very data-driven company. So having that kind of background is something that's really going to set you up for success in these roles. But yeah, short answer, yes, definitely.
fantastic. And there's another question actually here through specifically about the business development graduate strand. Does it matter which degree you have? So this particular participant is a molecular biology student. Is he or she eligible to apply, or would they be disadvantaged to business graduates?
Yeah, no, definitely. Definitely welcome to apply and definitely not disadvantaged. We, onto that scheme, have hired people from a whole range of different degrees, ranging from kind of music and history to architecture or astronomics. So it really is more about the skills that you have rather than the specific degree that you've studied. Obviously, any kind of knowledge that you have from a commercial aspect is going to help you in your ramp up. You might understand things slightly easier, but it's definitely not going to be a blocker. And we definitely do welcome applications from all backgrounds.
Fantastic, thank you. And this is actually our first question for the whole panel. The question is, how inclusively diverse are the graduate schemes with each of your companies? So I understand you might not have specific percentages and things, but just sort of in your own words. So we'll start with how you appear on my screen, if that's okay. So Teach First is up first, if that's okay.
Sorry, I lost my mute button. Yeah, no, incredibly so. Like we work so hard to ensure that our cohort is representative of the students that they're teaching. Obviously, it's an incredibly diverse country, and we want to make sure that children from all backgrounds have people in their classrooms that they feel that they can relate to, that look like them, that come from similar backgrounds. So it's a huge priority for us. I do have some statistics somewhere on my computer about our previous cohort. Bear with me 1 second. And I might be able to track them. So yeah, I think 30% of our cohort this year were from attended schools in disadvantaged areas themselves. 22% of our cohort were a BAME. 17% of our trainees disclosed that they have disabilities, and 12% identified as LGBTQ+. So we're really proud of our ability to encourage people from as diverse a background as possible to apply and to be accommodated onto the programme.
Great, thank you. And Mary from Unlock Grads?
Yep. So yeah, people from a BAME background are often disproportionately represented in UK prisons. So they can make up to 25% of the prison population, and increasing to 40% in youth custody. And less than 7% of prison officers currently identify as BAME. So Unlock graduates are quite committed to changing this and making sure that there is more representation in the prison system and staff population. So around 20% of our cohort each year are from a BAME background. So this year, the recruitment team has set up a diversity talent network. So this includes webinars, coaching, and one-to-one support to those from a BAME background from the moment at which they start application to when they get to an assessment centre and then they start the programme. So this is something we're working to increase year on year, and that's why we put these support programmes sort of in place. But yeah, similarly, working to become more and more diverse each year, but it is more diverse than the current prison. Our cohort is more diverse than the current prison officer workforce.
Great, thank you. And over to yourself, Jo, at Amazon.
So after saying we're a data-driven company, I don't have any data like the others to share. But what I can say is diversity is something that is a massive focus for us. We do have a lot of diversity in our graduate cohorts. However, we're constantly looking to drive that. I think diversity of thought is something that we really want in every single meeting and every decision that's made internally within Amazon. So there's a lot that we're doing twofold. One, in terms of our recruitments, so making sure that we are showcasing what we have to offer to BAME students, gender diversity focuses with that as well. But then more than that, when employees actually join Amazon, we have tons of different affinity groups where people can connect with like-minded people, and there's loads that comes from that. So whether it's different events that we run, whether that's to raise money or just to raise awareness, there is so much great work that's being done to help drive that diversity year on year.
Fantastic, thank you. And John from NHS?
Thank you. Yeah, so on the slide, I probably shared everybody that we were founded in 1948, and the NHS was founded on the principle of equality. And we fast forward now to where we are in 2020. I'll probably just direct you to two sort of plans that will take us forward in the next sort of 5-10 years. One is the NHS long-term plan. One is the NHS people plan. And within that, diversity, equality, inclusion is absolutely a foundation of those two plans. So you think about the NHS as a whole, it was built on equality, founded on equality, and then we're taking it forward into the next 10 years by making it the sort of foundation and paramount moving forward. That said, we do have challenges in the NHS. You know, we want a service that is representative of the population that they serve. And that's whether it's frontline care or actually behind the scenes who support that frontline care. But we are improving. Diversity is actually a foundation of the grad scheme as well. And year on year, we are trying to encourage more people from protect the characteristics from the Equality Act 2010 to come onto the scheme, as the NHS is for them. It is for everybody, from wherever you are and wherever you come from. And we want to have eventually a workforce that is representative of the population that we serve in the UK. But yes, come apply. You'll be able to see on our website, we have plenty of case studies and also plenty of areas that you'll be able to see that there is diversity throughout the scheme and also the NHS as well.
Great, thank you. And finally, Lauren from Civil Service.
Yeah, the civil service is committed to having a diverse and inclusive workforce. We have our 2 diversity internships, the EDIP and the SDIP, which are specifically for those from diverse backgrounds, so BAME, disability, low socioeconomic, which are really at the forefront of all of the Faststream's work. In our first year as Faststreamers, you get given a corporate objective, and each year for our first years, it is to increase inclusion and diversity activities within the civil service. You can either do this on an individual level by, say, going back to your old secondary school, going and relating to like local community events, or you can do it on a more departmental basis. I know in the Ministry of Justice, I worked on becoming a justice ambassador, going into local schools in London, talking about the wide range of availability of jobs in the civil service, because there's not just the Faststream. We have loads of routes for apprentices. We have lots of routes for people who don't have any qualifications. So yeah, the civil service, I don't have any data on, but if anyone does want that, I can easily pass them on to our HR team who will have it.
Fantastic, thank you. So we're back to direct questions now. So another one for unlocked graduates. What is the daily schedule for an unlocked graduate? How is the workload balanced between the officer shifts and doing work and reading for the masters?
Yeah, so the day-to-day is sort of, they always say that no 2 days are the same. So you can help prisoners go to education initiatives, helping them get to work, to conducting cell searches and spotting sort of power shifts between prisoners, and just keeping the prison running smoothly. So there's quite a lot of responsibilities to be looking after a large wing of prisoners. So we kind of ask for our participants sort of make that impact sort of day to day with the prisoners that they are coming into contact with, building better relationships with them, and we even sort of fund their own ideas so they can set up projects within the prison. So we've had our grads doing things like mental health campaigns and celebrating socially distanced Eids and those sorts of things. So it's about spotting opportunities for rehabilitation, sort of asking for support and funding and things for us to help you do that with. What was the second part of the question?
It was about how the workload is balanced between officer shifts and doing the reading and working for the masters.
Yeah, so because the masters is designed by us and it's a bespoke masters, it's sort of well integrated into the 2-year program. So your lecture days are already assigned and agreed with your prison, so you'll be released from your prison on that day, and then you'll join the rest of your cohort for those lecture days this year virtually, but hopefully perhaps in person by the time you join the program. And the shift pattern as a prison officer is sort of means that sometimes you're doing early shifts, sometimes you're doing late shifts. So often you have the sort of the afternoon or the morning, and you can have a week of night shifts, sort of once or twice a year, which means you get the following week off. So I think our participants tend to use that shift pattern to sort of juggle their studies as well. They do find that because they're writing about their day-to-day role and what they're seeing every day, it's less of a sort of, you know, they don't have to switch off so much to write about it. It's not like when I was doing my degree and had to completely sort of, you know, my normal day-to-day life to what I was writing about was completely different. Because you're writing about your job, I think it's a lot easier. But you have mentoring prison officers, and you've got the whole sort of head office team and program team to support you through that, and make sure that you're sort of dealing with the two together.
Fantastic, thank you. And a question for Teach First, should be a pretty easy one to answer. Are you able to choose which area that you're based in?
Yeah, great question. Yes, we run the programme all over England, from the northeast, the northwest, Yorkshire and the Humber, London, southeast, south coast, the Midlands. So on your application form, you rank the 9 regions that we operate in order of preference. I would encourage anyone that has a specific area in mind to consider applying earlier, because the more popular regions tend to fill up quicker. So we started the programme back in 2003 in London, and that's remained our most popular area ever since. Additionally, the Northwest is also incredibly popular as well, and I imagine many people will be quite keen to stay around here. So I would encourage earlier applications. If we can't guarantee your first choice because it's already filled up, we'll do everything we can to offer you your second. But yeah, you do have a choice in where you're based.
Fantastic, thank you. And this question is for John at the NHS. This participant has an MSc, and they were just wondering that do you get a lot of postgraduate applicants, or the fact that you offer a master's alongside the graduate scheme, does that mean that postgraduate applicants are perhaps overqualified?
Yeah, so it's a really good question, actually. So regarding degrees, we take a 2-2 in any discipline. So an example is we had our own event this week with alumni who did geography about 13 years ago, and she's now an associate director of operations in one of our trusts. So for people who are wondering what to come forward with a degree, it's a 2-2 in any discipline. In terms of the postgraduate question you asked, the MSc, I'd have to know what it would be in, because if you've got certain postgrad qualifications in various things, unfortunately you won't be able to apply for the scheme because you've already achieved it. And actually a key part of the scheme is the education you're on. So I have to understand what the MSc would be in. But no, we do get people from postgraduate who can apply to the scheme. What I'd recommend is going onto the website, just looking at the entry requirements. We have 6 specialisms. We have some consistent entry requirements that are needed, but there's also some ones that are tagged onto each of those specialisms. So if you've achieved something else, if you already achieved the postgrad qualification in say for instance informatics, then maybe you might have to just reach out to us and ask a specific question. But no, we do get a mixed bag, so we get undergraduates and also we get postgraduates as well.
Absolutely great, thank you. The next question is for Lauren. So this question is from a participant that they're asking about if you had any tips for STEM PhD graduates who are looking at joining the Science and Technology Faststream programme. Is there an opportunity to work on perhaps specialties that you studied during your PhD that are relevant to the civil service organisations? So basically, I think what they're asking here is how much choice is there in once you're on the strand in your placements?
I don't know specifically about science and technology, but I know it will be the same as the other schemes where you have a preference form every year. You can choose which kind of area you go into, and you can definitely write in there what your interests are, what you've got kind of qualification wise, and the people who place you will definitely take that into account. I know for my secondment, I specifically asked for a police force and something to do with inclusion and diversity, and they managed to match me exactly to that. So they'll definitely take it into account. They can't guarantee it, but no, they definitely want to play to people's strengths, but they also want to develop you as a leader. So sometimes your placements might be completely seemingly random, but they're there to work on a skill that you may have to strengthen before you go to the final promotion process.
Great, thank you. And a question for Joe at Amazon. The online assessments, the online tests, are they psychometric tests or are they sort of like gamified assessments?
Yeah, so it's a combination. So they are situation based. So it's putting you into a situation and asking how you would respond. Some of them are more analytical. So it might present you with a data set and ask you to select a recommendation based on a few key points. Some of them will be more prioritization. So again, you might be given a situation and you have 3 or 4 things to do and you have to rate those in order of which you would do first. So it's just a few different things like that. As I mentioned, they've been developed to be real life Amazon situations. Obviously, that's hard to quantify to a specific role, but as much as possible, they're the kind of decisions that you would have to make on a day-to-day basis if you were to be successful.
Fantastic, thank you. And another question for John at the NHS. There was a mention in the support package as part of the graduate scheme that you will get exposure to a senior leader as part of the graduate scheme support. Can you tell us a little more about what that would look like?
Yeah, of course. So in terms of support, the health and well-being of anybody on the scheme is really paramount for us and really important. So it's a national scheme, but every person on the scheme will have a program manager, they'll have a placement manager, and they'll have a mentor, and they'll also have a training support manager. And there's also a region specifically looking after that group of candidates in that region as well. So that's the sort of support package we have for our trainees who join the scheme. In terms of exposure to a senior leader, this is all about the placement you're going to be in. So it could be anywhere. So you could be based in a CCG, as I said before, you could be in an acute trust, you could be in a community health trust, primary care network, but you will always have exposure to a placement program manager who should be quite senior in that organisation and be able to support you through the education, through the experience you come on to, but actually also your health and well-being to ensure that you have all the support you need on the scheme. So yeah, all the placements are different, but they're also consistent in terms of the competencies we're looking for in those placements and what you need to achieve. So hopefully that answers the question about the support package, but also the exposure you get to senior people in the NHS.
Absolutely, thank you. And we've got another question for you, John. The question regards the NHS graduate scheme. Do you think that this scheme sets its alumni up with skills which are transferable to other sectors and industries, or would you say that those who enter the NHS graduate scheme should go into it more if they envisage themselves staying in the NHS for long term, basically?
Yeah, so I obviously don't know what the individual circumstances to ask that, but what I would say would be, if your view is to do the scheme and take it elsewhere to another sector, I'd really think about what your motivation is for joining the scheme, actually coming into the NHS. And we put a lot of time, put a lot of effort into actually recruiting you, but also giving you the support you need to complete those 2 years. But the answer is the skills are transferable. You do postgrad qualification in a specialism of your choice. You do a healthcare leadership qualification, which is NHS focused. But yes, you could potentially come into the NHS and then leave after a number of years and go elsewhere. However, alumni don't really tend to do that, just due to the varied career path you can have. But yeah, like I said before, I'd really think about your motivation about, are you coming to the scheme, are you coming to the NHS to actually make a difference and your values align with us, or actually just coming in to get sort of the scheme exposure and then go somewhere else. If it's a second, I'd probably think about what your reasons why join the scheme.
Great, thank you. And a question, well, we've got a couple of questions for Joe here. I guess this is sort of an easy one. Is there a deadline for all of the Amazon graduate schemes? Is it a rolling deadline, or does every scheme have different deadlines for applications?
So it is rolling. I would say apply sooner rather than later, because our places do fill up. We normally do tend to recruit through until about March of next year, but some roles will fill up a lot quicker than others. So the business development graduate, we have a lot of positions, so there's a little bit more flexibility, but AWS and finance are quite limited. So all roles apply as soon as you can, but particularly to those two.
Great, thank you. And then there's another question here, which is quite a nice question actually. What is your favourite thing about working at Amazon?
Great question. So for me, it's, I guess, kind of twofold. The variety, which I kind of mentioned earlier, but it really is that no 2 days are the same in whatever role you're in. I'm in recruitment, which you would think you might have kind of certain patterns and normal regular days, but it's really not. You're constantly interacting with so many different people. There are so many different stakeholders in every role that you interact with on a day-to-day basis. Which leads me into my second point, which is the people that you work with. I think a combination of the variety and the people that you work with mean that you're constantly learning. I think every time I go into a meeting, I feel like I'm surrounded by people who are 10 times more intelligent than me, which means that you're constantly learning from them and growing. Even 5 years in, every day I come across problems that I don't know how to solve, and you have to work to figure that out. So it's really a steep learning curve, but then that just continues, I think, throughout your entire career at Amazon, which is something that's also really rewarding.
Oh, that's great, thank you. Actually, that is such a nice question. I'd like to hear from all of the panelists. We have loads of questions to get through, but I just think this is a good question. So, Mary, what's your favourite thing about working at Unlocked Grads?
I think it's probably the participants that join the programme and hearing their stories about what they've achieved on the programme throughout those 2 years, but also within like the first couple of weeks. I spoke to somebody who I'd managed to sort of get through the whole application process and make his offer and stuff, and within his first month he's been helping a woman to learn to read so that she's able to read letters from her family and write home. So it's just hearing little things like that and just hearing what an impact these graduates are making from what, you know, from their first few weeks.
Fantastic, thank you. And Lou, yourself at Teach First?
Yeah, I have to echo that. I work with students right from like when they start applying all the way through to starting the program, and then I also get to see them in action on the program. So I get to see them in the classroom and just kind of seeing that progress and that development and that increase in confidence from those initial wobbles around even applying through to like actually starting in the classroom, and then actually going to see them in the classroom and seeing them inspire and make a difference, and kind of letting, like, showing, sort of giving the children the light bulb moments where they, you know, they finally get they figure out like different theories, or figure out like how to conjugate verbs or whatever it might be, and just actually seeing the genuine difference and the genuine impact that they can have. It's something that really really drives me to keep on working here.
Thank you. And Lauren at the Civil Service?
I'd probably echo Jo on like the variety of jobs and like how no 2 days are the same. Working at the forefront of national and international events is personally what I absolutely love. I like it when you look at almost at a newspaper and you think, oh, I did that, or that was the brief that I told the minister to say. So that's quite rewarding. But there's also, you can't say enough for the work-life balance. I feel as a student that I didn't have almost evening and weekends because you've always been studying. The civil service really pushes for everyone to have such a healthy work-life balance. So you feel like you're always rested and you can always give 100% every day.
Great, thank you. And finally, John at the NHS?
Yeah, so I particularly enjoy, I know it sounds kind of cliche, but it's seeing everybody be themselves. So in the NHS, there isn't any sort of conformity about you must be like this, you must behave like that. Everybody can bring their own experiences and their own skill set to a project to actually move forward. And you can see that in the trainees. So yes, we put them through qualifications to do healthcare leadership and Joe, a postgrad qualification in a specialism. But actually, it's about taking their life experiences, understanding their skill set, and they can be themselves and actually bring that to a project to actually improve something, whether the transformation strategy or operations. And we see that on a regular basis. So yeah, that's probably my favourite thing.
Great, thank you. And we've got 2 questions grouped here together for unlocked graduates. The first one is it possible to speak to current members of the graduate scheme to get an insight into what the graduate scheme is like?
Yeah, if you sort of are a little bit uncertain, then feel free to sort of message the recruitment team and we can try and link that up. But I would point out that a lot of the events we've got coming up, and you can also find those on our website, we will have participants on the programme coming, so you can ask any questions you might have, and that includes sort of our application webinars too. So we've got quite a few sort of exciting events coming up around November time, so it's worth looking out for those because there will be an opportunity for Q&As.
Fab, thank you. And the next question is also for yourself. This participant has asked, do I need to have any volunteering experience? They don't have any at the minute, but they would love to apply. But would this put them at a disadvantage because they don't have any volunteering experience at the moment?
No, so we don't look for any particular experience. We just look for our set attributes. So, I mean, in the first stage of the application anyway, you're doing a situational judgment test, so there isn't the opportunity to talk about your previous experience there anyway. So I would advise doing that sort of sooner rather than later to get through to the next stage. But yeah, we don't look for particular experience. It's just sort of how you've demonstrated those attributes sort of in the experiences that you do have. So that can be sort of academic or through a job you might have had, or just through sort of the peers that you've had around you. They've helped you to build many skills like relationship building and resilience and those sorts of things. So just look online at our What We Look For page, and I'm sure you can think of many times that you've had to demonstrate and develop those attributes. It doesn't have to be through voluntary experience.
Great, thank you. There's a couple of questions here. I imagine they're for the whole panel. They might be quite short to answer. The first one is, do you sponsor visas for international applicants? If you're not sure, don't worry, but yeah, we'll just start with John, yourself.
Yes, quick answer for me. So the answer is yes. If you go onto the entry requirements page of our website, you'll see all the what we do around visas and sponsorship there. But the answer is yes.
Great, thank you. And Louis at Teach First?
We unfortunately don't sponsor visas. We are part of an umbrella organisation called Teach for All, though, which spans the globe. So there is a good chance that one of our partner organisations will be based in, if not close to, the home countries of many applicants, I would imagine.
Fantastic, thank you. And Joe at Amazon?
It's done on a case-by-case basis. Obviously, there's a lot of change with the visa sponsorship and immigration in the UK at the moment, but we recommend applying, and then it's something that you can work with your recruiter on throughout the process.
Great, thank you. And Lauren at the Civil Service? There was quite a couple of these questions for yourself, actually.
Oh, really? Yeah, we don't offer sponsorship, unfortunately, for the Faststream. We do have some schemes that are open to dual nationalities, but no, we don't sponsor visas.
No worries, thank you. And finally, Mary at Unlocked Grads.
Yeah, similarly, we are not able to sponsor visas, so you need to be eligible to work in the UK for the duration of the programme. So that's about 26 months starting July 2021.
No worries, thank you. This is also a question for the whole panel, although I imagine it will take a little bit longer to answer. Do employers or recruitment professionals consider the anxiety that can sometimes be associated with doing video interviews? And do you take this into account, that people might be nervous and how this may impact their performance on video interviews specifically? So we'll start with Louis, if that's okay, at Teach First.
Yeah, sure. No, that's a really great question. Yeah, it's definitely something we take into account. Like, we know how nerve-wracking it can be, like applying for jobs and having interviews, whether it be in person or through Zoom or Skype or whatever it might be. And yeah, it is something we bear in mind when it comes to us kind of sort of totting up everyone's scores at the end of the day. We can determine like how much of it was down to nerves if someone's performance wasn't quite what they wanted it to be at. But one of the helpful things about our application process is with the virtual selection day, which is like our interview process. It comes in 3 parts. So there is an interview, there is a group task, and then there's also an opportunity to deliver a short kind of pretend lesson, and if you were to struggle with one particular element of that, it wouldn't affect the other elements. We kind of assess them all blindly. So if people do feel particularly anxious about taking an interview, it's not the be all and end all if that doesn't go as well as you would have liked it to have gone. If that makes sense.
Absolutely, thank you. And Lauren at Civil Service?
I was petrified for my video interview for the Faststream. And I still look back, but there was no need to, because what happens is it's automated. It's not actually a person on the end. A question will flash up. You'll have a minute of prep time, and then you can talk about whatever they've asked you to talk about. The assessment team are, I don't want to say forgiving, but yeah, they understand that video interviews are quite nerve-wracking, especially if you've never done them before. I know on our assessment day, it's split into 3, so it's not all about video interview. You really play to your strengths. So you have an individual task that is almost a role play exercise. You have a group task, so you can then show your strengths in a group. And we also have a writing task. So you can almost show your strengths there if one-on-one wouldn't really be your strength.
Great, thank you. And John at the NHS?
Yeah, so I'm going to probably agree with Lauren there and say if you weren't anxious or scared about going to interview face to face or on a video, you're probably some kind of narcissist, aren't you? That you actually don't get that anxiety for an interview. But in terms of what we do, so the third step of the process is a video interview, and as Lauren says, it is kind of a question flashes up. You get a minute or two to prepare, then you answer it for a minute or two. Now we do work with occupational psychologists, I think that's the right phrase, to actually understand that the person on the other side of the camera who's doing this might not be able to perform to the best of their ability, because it is a bit of an odd setting. Same with the virtual assessment centre as well that you'll come to, that we delivered in September, October, just gone, our first one, that we actually work with that and take that into account. So yes, please put yourself at ease, be yourself on those questions, and it is taken into account in your performance. Of course it is.
Great, thank you. And Joe at Amazon?
Yep, so similar actually to what Louis said, in that our assessment centres are made up of 4 different interviews or activities, and each of those are taken as an individual part. So if you're really nervous about one of the activities, if you feel like it hasn't gone very well, put it behind you, move on with the rest of the day, because that's how the interviewers are assessing you, based on what they see in that 45 minutes to an hour that they're with you. Outside of that, we have tried to reduce our process as much as possible, so that it is just the online assessment, which is done in front of a screen. There's no interaction there other than clicking some buttons, and then have the assessment centre to take away some of that anxiety over the process. All of our interviewers as well have hopefully got the right skills to be able to kind of calm those nerves and get the best out of you as well. But also, I think it's worth calling out that this is a really weird situation that everyone's in, right? So as much as you're nervous about having to do an interview by video, the interviewer's probably got some nerves as well, because they want to make sure that they're giving you the best shot, and that this is a new situation. We don't normally do virtual assessment centres. So I think it's important just to remember that this is slightly strange for everyone. Everyone's adapting. Things go wrong with technology all the time. And I say that working at a technology company, I can confirm, even here, things go wrong all the time. So I think, yeah, it's just worth calling out that everyone is in the same situation. And even though it might not seem like it, interviewers are probably slightly nervous as well.
Absolutely, and for anyone that is nervous about video interviews, we have access to Graduates First and Sunru, where you can have practice video interviews, and you can also book interview simulations with myself or another careers consultant, so you can practice your interview before the real thing. So we only have a couple of minutes left. Mary has had to leave us from Unlocked Graduates, but we have bombarded her with a lot of questions. So hopefully everyone that had a question for Unlocked Graduates has been able to have them answered. If you have any last minute questions, feel free to send them in, and we'll try our best to get through them. But there are a couple of last ones here. So another one for Joe at Amazon. What is the standard progression like at Amazon after the graduate scheme? Do a lot of people stay within the company or the industry, or have you seen graduates go off and do other things?
Yeah, so I think one of the great things about Amazon is that if you want to do something else, chances are you can probably do it at Amazon. I think at the end of the kind of majority of our programs go up to about 2 years. The reason that the 2 years and the reason that most of them aren't rotational is because by the end of that 2 years, you'll be fully wrapped up into that role. You'll have probably delivered on some kind of project, and that means that you'll probably be looking at your next step. That might be a promotion. So each of our different roles have a promotion path where you can go into more senior versions of that role. But we also have so many other opportunities. So quite a lot of people at the end of that 2 years might actually take more of a sideways move into either a more specialized role or into a different team, and that's absolutely fine. And then there's a progression path within that. I think generally speaking, in any role at Amazon, by the time you get to probably about 2 or 3 years in the role, you naturally would be looking to move into something else. Even myself, I've been here 5 years, and in that time I've had 3 different roles, all within recruitment, but there's still opportunity to kind of do something slightly different and have a different focus.
Great, thank you. And this question is for Louis at Teach First. You mentioned that around 63% of graduates on the scheme stay in teaching. Do you know, you might not have the specific percentage, but do you see a lot of them go on to maybe getting more responsibility points, maybe head of a year group or head of a department?
Great question, and I saw this statistic just earlier actually. 2,000 of the 12,000 people that have completed our program are currently in leadership positions in school, whether that is middle leadership role, senior leadership, heads of department, heads of year, that kind of thing. The training program used to be called the Leadership Development Program, and that heart of it still exists. We still want to develop amazing leaders. So there is huge focus on that. In fact, we run a program for people who are a sub-program within the program called School Leadership Development, whereby we encourage our trainees to take on further leadership opportunities. I think 83 head teachers have been trained up through through Teach First now, and we were also responsible for training the UK's youngest head teacher, who was 27 years old when he became a head teacher. So yeah, there's huge scope for progression in schools as well as out of them.
Wow, 27, that's amazing. Gosh,
it's crazy.
Crazy, thank you. And our penultimate question is both for Lauren and John. So both the civil service and the NHS are massive organisations. They're national, and there's so many different parts to make it run. Is it easy to network with other graduates in different areas of the business and also in different sort of geographical locations? Is there something maybe structured set up to help graduates on the scheme network, or is it sort of up to the graduates themselves to seek out these networking opportunities with other graduates? So we'll start with Lauren, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's a great question. On your first day on the Faststream, you're put into what's called an ALS group, an action learning set. These are with around like 7 to 10 people spread across the country in different schemes. So some people in my ALS group are on the diplomatic scheme, the project delivery, and you check in with them every 4 to 6 weeks. You all come together, or you used to before COVID, you'd all go to someone's office, have a look around the area, see what they're doing on, and it's just really a support group. I know someone's just messaged me now because they're actually going for promotion on the second year of the scheme rather than waiting till the end. And it's just kind of, you've got all those kind of groups all the way through. Those are the ones structured by the Faststream. You've also got lots of networks. So you've got the Women's Network, the Opportunity Network for lower socioeconomic backgrounds. You have the Sports Network. It's basically all your kind of university societies within the civil service and within the Faststream itself. Whichever department you go into, there will be other Faststreamers, and there'll also be these kind of like clubs that you can join as well.
Great, thank you. And John at the NHS?
Yeah, so for September 2021 and March 2022, we're looking to probably start around 500 trainees on the grad scheme, on those 2 intakes coming forward. So you can imagine the network opportunities that there are there to learn from one another. There's always case studies from people on the scheme now, and obviously alumni that say actually they make friends that they keep for life on the scheme, just because you're in it together. Lauren said about action learning sets. We do that at the NHS as well. It's a big part of the grad scheme. Also, you are based in a region, so you'll get to know people in the region. And also you'll get to know people outside of the cohort that you're in as well, people you work with on a regular basis that aren't part of the scheme and you're very close to them. So yeah, there's tons of opportunity for networking and the support that gives to you as well.
Great, thank you. And to round us off, because technically we've officially finished, but the last question here I just think would be nice for all panelists, just a really short answer. All of your schemes sound fantastic, and the participants understand that they are also competitive. So if you could just give one tip or one insight or one piece of advice on what you can do to stand out as an applicant, what would you suggest? So we'll start with Louis from Teach First.
Yeah, great question. I would echo something Joe said earlier actually about looking at the website, because on there we base our entire application process on our competencies, and as long as you can demonstrate those competencies, you have a fantastic chance to get a place on the programme. It's not competitive as such, but we do set a very high standard because we're obviously working in schools in disadvantaged areas which have historically not had the most consistent levels of support. So we just want to make sure that the teachers we're giving them have fantastic potential, and as long as you can demonstrate those competencies, so things like leadership, effective communication, planning and organising, resilience, then you're in with a great shout.
Great, thank you. And Joe with Amazon.
Yeah, so I would completely echo that with Amazon's leadership principles, but then also to add, I think when you're thinking about your application and talking through the experience that you've had, you obviously want to explain what it was that you did and what your position was, but just really focus on the results. So what we care about is what you were able to deliver when you were doing that. And that might be something that was really relative to this. It might be something bigger scale, but just make sure that you're including that result so that it shows what impact you had.
Thank you. And John at the NHS.
Yeah, so I think I've said this all the way through questions that I've asked, and also my slide is, when applying to the scheme, just think about why you're applying to the NHS. What is it that drives you to apply to the NHS? Our values there to be seen, but think about your motivation for the NHS. Just to give you a bit of insight, it is competitive. So in our last run of assessment centres, or application process rather, we had 17,000 applications. So it gives you an insight into a number of those people who've applied and maybe haven't got onto the scheme because they haven't really thought about the scheme itself. But check out our values, check out our website, and think about why you're applying to the scheme.
Thank you. And finally, Lauren at the Civil Service.
I think definitely, yeah, check our website for the success profiles, leadership statements. But I think most importantly, just be yourself. We're not looking for someone who is a copy of a civil servant you know. We're looking for you, your unique experiences, your background. We don't really have a type that we're recruiting for. So just come, be yourself. If you're normally quiet, be a bit quieter. If you're normally loud, be loud. If you have a hobby, talk about it. We are looking for people more than almost a sheet and a CV.
Great, thank you so much. So that brings us to the end of the session. I'd just like to say a huge thank you to all of our panelists who have given up their time in what I'm sure is really busy time for them to answer your questions today. I'm sure everyone will agree that they've given some really great insight into their industries, their organisations, and also of course their graduate schemes. So thank you all so much. I hope that you've enjoyed taking part. Thank you so much to all of our participants as well. So I hope you found this session useful and you had a chance to ask any questions that you had. After the session, you'll receive an email request for feedback, and we'd really appreciate if you'd take the time to let us know if you enjoyed the session, if there's anything that we could perhaps improve on for next time, and if you'd like to give thanks to a particular panelist as well. We'd also be interested to get feedback from our panelists. This is a new way of working for us. So we usually run these events in person, so we'd really value your feedback as well so we can continue to improve the experience for our panelist volunteers. But thank you again so much. We really appreciate your time, and have a lovely weekend, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Cheers, take care.
Thank you. Bye now.
Thanks.